Yuki is one of the most important characters in Classroom of the Elite, and it is a travesty that most of the fandom doesn't even know that she exists. She is probably the first person Ayanokoji met aside from the scientists. And did Ayanokoji even meet his dad? I don't even know if Ayanokoji met his dad. I think he met his dad later. I think he met Yuki before he met his father. And she helped him realize one of, if not the very few emotions he ever realized within the White Room. And today, we are going to go into the story. We're going to discover what that looks like. We're going to discover how Ayanokoji met Yuki, what their circumstances were, and how she helped him discover what hatred feels like. So I have a few passages that I'm going to pick out. We're going to read them all. And then you're going to see that this is probably one of the most interesting ways a person has ever discovered emotions in their life. I guarantee whatever you think is happening, whatever way you think this took place, it did not take place that way. It is equal parts terrifying and cute. Like, I don't think you guys realize how this went down. So we're just gonna go in, we're gonna read this, and this is gonna be hilarious. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. So let me pick out the first passage. So the first passage kind of goes into like what the White Room environment is like, because unless you understand like and you read word for word what it's actually like, you're not gonna understand any of this. Like it is brutal. Like the environment is straight up brutal. There is nothing else like it, and you guys need to see what that looks like. So the color. This is the first time Ayanokoji awakened. This is the first time man manifested consciousness. Like this is the moment. The color. The color that spread across my field of vision. The first thing I remember was equally as white. Like the entire place was just walls white, ceiling white, everything white. The ceiling is no exception. I was staring at the white ceiling in my first memory. Before showing any interest in starting or playing with my fingertips, I simply wondered what this white ceiling was. So as you can see, person is actually becoming a person. Day after day, I spent more and more time just staring at that ceiling. At first, I cried. I cried because I missed people. And then I learned no one was coming to help me. This is one of the most insidious ways the White Room basically indoctrinates you. Like, they don't teach you stuff. They just put you in an environment that you will learn stuff. Like, it is futile to be able to try to fight against this. It's futile trying to do anything against it. The White Room's entire philosophy is to make you come to grips with the harsh reality. That's why it's so effective. Now that I look back at it, like you're gonna see right now, now that I look back on it, it was instinct, not logic. This is the first thing a newborn baby who cannot even speak learns when it learns to accept this environment. Again, it is accepting the environment. The White Room isn't gonna make you think a certain way. It is literally just gonna put you in a situation that you just have to accept reality. The nourishment necessary for life was brought to us by the cold adults. This is no different in case of illness. The treatment was carried out without hesitation, and daily life returned as if nothing had happened. No one panicked, no one worried, no one rejoiced. Eventually you learn. You realize that you're carefully being cared for here. Like this line is really important. No one panicked, no one worried, no one rejoiced. Like the White Room's entire philosophy was to basically axe out anything that looked like emotion. Like that had no place here. And they did this by putting the children in these like really messed up environments where they had no choice but to shed these things in order to be able to survive. Like you're gonna see Ayanokoji go into over here. Human beings have feelings of joy, anger, sorrow, and pleasure, but none of them are of much use in the facility. Again, the environment. This is a big theme. The environment dictates what you are, and most importantly, what you're not allowed to feel. No wonder, whether you laugh or you cry, get angry or get sad, the instructors weren't there to help you. Again, individuality. The fourth generation. This is the cornerstone of what this entire experiment was about. You are on your own. There is nobody there to help you. Your comrade or like your fellow White Room children, I'm not even going to call them comrade because that's not what they are. The scientists, everything around you is meant to just foster individuality. There is no two ways about it. And as you can see, like the environment, just like that's the only thing the environment allows for. The only time I could move forward was when I achieved something. This is super important. This is the cornerstone of what makes Ayanokoji in the anime. This mindset that the only way to get rid of all these bad things that are happening in your life is to get results, is to move forward. This is where the saying, as long as I win, everything is okay, comes from, because as long as in the White Room you get results, you will not have to feel the pain. If you don't get results, no matter what you feel, the pain is going to just supersede all of it. The pain is just going to take over everything. Like this is basically what it was. So I want for you guys to understand what this type of mindset is. I don't think any passage in the books basically describes it better than whatever you read over here. So with this in mind, we want to go into Yuki and Ayanokoji's first ever interaction. So you can see how this mindset basically seeps into that. By the time I was 5-year-olds, the number of children had dwindled even further down to about 50 at that point. So again, the White Room is heinous in like the way the competition happens. You don't perform, you're out of there. Their entire philosophy is that like we're not gonna hold back the gifted people just because there's some dead weight. You are dead weight, you are out of there, bro. You are gone. Like there is no place for you within the White Room. And you can see again, this mindset of the environment is absolute. No one cared. There was no time to care. Here, the only thing they want is your ability. There was no end. Again, the environment basically necessitated the way the people thought. It wasn't ingrained in them. It's just the place that they were put in. That's what it instilled in them. Once you faltered, you'll never be able to catch up again. Do you believe this is extraordinary? I don't. This was everyday life for me. Again, acceptance. Like the environment is shaped in such a way, there is no end to it, that you just have to basically accept whatever is happening to you. This is why Ayanokoji's mindset, by the way, is like steel in the anime, because if you are conditioned this way, how would it not be? How would you not be that way? You either break and you're kicked out, or you stay and you inhibit this type of mindset. One day, when the number of people in the group had already decreased considerably, we had dinner together. The meal was being served with everyone present. During the meal, the instructor left the table and the children were left alone. However, we've never had a direct conversation. The whole time, I only heard their voices through the instructors. Why don't we talk to each other? It wasn't forbidden by the instructors. We just didn't have conversations because there wasn't a need to talk in the first place. Again, the environment necessitates what happens, not the other way around. The environment is what basically, the environment of being an individual and only looking at things individualistically and having steep competition. It basically necessitated an arena where you just didn't have to talk to anybody. You don't need to talk. You don't have the time to talk to anybody. You are too busy just being thrashed around to have any time to talk to anybody. We knew how good each one of us was in their studies because, again, competition, scoreboards, everything, the place was rife with it. And we knew how athletic each one of us was. All our inner abilities were laid bare. There was no food that they like or dislike. The rule of eating was that what was served applied to all of the children. In other words, there was no need for dialogue regarding meals. Wait, let me read that again. The rule of eating only was what was served applied to all of the children. So you just basically eat whatever is in front of you. In other words, again, no need to talk, no dinner time conversation. That is not required. There was no fellowship amongst us students. The others' presence, again, the no fellowship was again necessitated by the environment. The other's presence that neither helps us nor hinders us is just somehow no different from the scenery around us. I heard a girl named Yuki who always sat in front of me whisper. It wasn't problematic behavior since we weren't forbidden to speak during the meal. It was just that no one spoke because no one felt the need to. This If you know Star Wars, is the best way I can explain it. It's a disturbance in the Force. Yuki was the first one to break this environment, and the way she broke it was very interesting. I don't like. Again, liking or disliking, that's an emotion. So Yuki was the first one to awaken anything that even seemed like an emotion within the White Room by starting this dialogue in front of Ayanokoji. This was the first change in the precedent. Ayanokoji even admits it. I thought she would stop talking because no one responded, but Yuki didn't. Do you like it, Kiyotaka? She asked me if I disliked or liked. She asked me if I liked or disliked the carrots in front of me. To answer or not to answer. But to begin with, I've never thought of the concept of liking or disliking carrots. Again, to Ayanokoji, survive, get results, those were the only things necessary in order to not become a quote-unquote loser within the White Room. So the idea of liking or disliking, this was a new thing for him. A new type of stimulus. A new type of thought process. Like, he didn't even understand it. And this is where his curiosity started to take hold. I only consider them as one of the nutrients that we should consume. The main nutrient in carrots is... This man's doing a monologue about carrots. The main nutrient in carrots is beta-carotene. It was the ability to change into... Yo, I am learning, boys. We are learning today. You thought you came for Classroom of the Elite? Nah, you're getting a science nutrition lesson right here. It was the ability to change into vitamin A when taken into the body. It's effective in preventing cellular aging and maintaining healthy skin and mucous membranes. It was also very important for immunity against viruses. Do you like carrots? I don't like them either. The answer wasn't from me, but from Shiro, who was sitting to my side. Shiro basically was like the martial artist within the White Room. We're not going to get into him in this video, but trust me, I'm going to make a video on him as well. I have to. I have no choice here. This must be done. The answer was Yuki looked at him in surprise. While I was distracted by the dialogue between the two, I checked the surveillance camera. Of course, the instructors were watching our meals on a daily basis. There was no way they couldn't have picked up on the sound, since there was no response from the instructors and they didn't criticize us or anything. This kind of conversation must be allowed. Actually, to this day, it's not explained why they did this type of experiment or like why they brought us together, because this was basically the only time it happened. I just don't know. Maybe the scientists were like, let's put them all together. Let's see what happens. Like, basically, I think that's what it was. Like, there seems to be no rhyme nor no explanation in the volume for why this happened. I went through it a bunch of times. Nothing in there. None. Zero. Of course, however, we've never been asked to engage in dialogue with each other. As long as there was no merit in bothering to engage in dialogue, there was no need to follow the two and respond. Still, I thought about it for a moment. There you go, bro. Yuki is getting Ayanokoji to think. You either like carrots or you don't. The answer was yes. The answer was I don't hate them. After the meal, I had a little trouble. I never learned how to kill time. Just sitting and waiting was the easiest and only option I had. However, Yuki wasn't like that. And after dinner, she walked around the room by herself. I thought it was a waste of energy to walk, but I kept silent and watched her. She walked around the small room for about 3 laps and she passed right in front of me. Wow. Yuki almost tripped and fell in front of me. I instantly stretched my arm and prevented her from falling down. It's strange to fall down in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? After I analyzed the situation, Yuki widened her eyes and looked surprised. Or is it fatigue? No, it doesn't look like that to me. I couldn't understand why she fell down, and it seemed the same was true for Yuki. Yeah, I'm not tired, but I fell down. Weird, isn't it? When she said this, a look came over her face that I had never seen before. It was the first expression created by facial muscles. The how do you say this? Orbicularis oculi muscle around her. I think I said that right. I don't know, bro. And the wrinkled brow muscles near her eyebrow. The orbicularis oculi muscle around her eyes. And the wrinkled brow muscles near her eyebrows. I had never seen such a look on the other students' or adults' faces. The girl herself seemed to understand my wonder. She smiled. Yuki smiled. And this is important because in the entire White Room, when the instructors were taught to teach the students, they were instructed to either wear face masks or make sure that they don't make any kind of emotions on their faces. Smiling, laughing, frowning, getting angry, all of that. The instructors basically had to pull an Ayanokoji the entire time they were there. So this is the first time in his life that Ayanokoji has seen someone smiling. Like the first time a conversation started, the first time someone smiled, these are all of Ayanokoji's first. He had never seen, and this is what grew his interest in Yuki. You can see the confusion and bewilderment on her face. I can see why. I never learned that. I was never taught that look, but I know it. It didn't take long for me to realize that it was a smile. It was an instinct that we're born with, or perhaps even before we're born. That may be why she could express it without having learned it. So yeah, this is basically like what cemented Yuki and Ayanokoji's mind is within the walls, the white walls of the White Room. Ayanokoji, these emotions, these things, you could only see them within Yuki. And it's an interesting from a thematic point of view as well, because think about this. The entire idea of the White Room is to stamp out emotion or stamp out anything unnecessary in terms of abilities. But even within this harsh, sterile environment, you can't hold back human nature. Like the instinct to smile, the instinct to talk, the instinct to converse, the instinct to connect, that is ingrained in us and like our DNA as deep as anything else. So within the sterile environment, something like that could even spring forth. And Yuki is like basically like the symbolism of that. Like remember, like we had this like symbolism in volume 7 about Yuki, about snow and how snow would feel for the first time. I thought it was like innocence, but now that I know the story, I think it was about Yuki. I think that entire thing was about Yuki. Like about how Yuki like experienced emotions within the White Room that no one ever had experienced before. So I think Ayanokoji was taking from that and thinking in volume 7, will I experience emotions that I had never experienced in my life? It's a very deep and very strong symbolism that I honestly have seen nobody else on the internet talk about. Like I'm doing this because I've seen nobody talk about this stuff. Like I'm like, everybody makes White Room videos, but you guys aren't talking about like the main subject matter of the White Room, which is all this stuff. Oh my goodness. And we're gonna see how this interaction with Yuki plays out when Ayanokoji has his first interaction with his father. And straight up, this is one of, if not the most important scenes, not just in this volume, but for the entire... I am pretty sure whatever happens here bleeds all the way into the second year, all the way into the end of the second year, actually. Like, this is such an important, like, conversation that you guys need to read this word for word because it's gonna answer a lot of things in the story. I guarantee you, once I read this, I was like, okay, it makes sense. Things make sense now. Things are making sense. Ayanokoji's like actions and all of his like motivations, they all make sense now. You guys have to read this. So we're gonna do it together. Every few months, there came a time of great change. That's when some of the children began to have trouble keeping up with the curriculum. The level of study increased by 2 or 3 difficulty levels, and little by little, they began to fall behind. It was clear that even after the same amount of time spent learning, there were differences among the individuals. When they were first taught addition, when they were first taught multiplication, they started out equally, but then others realized that they were superior to each other. So again, the environment couldn't account for innate differences between the people. Along the way, they can rewind and move on to the next step, but often the child who is noticeably behind stumbles at the next step. I'm sure that the adults didn't welcome the children dropping out. However, they couldn't keep children who weren't keeping up with the program in the same place indefinitely. Leaving a child who wasn't keeping up created dissonance. And if you try to accommodate the child who wasn't keeping up, the others' rhythm who were ahead would be lost. So again, the White Room is all about, if you're at the top, you are the king. You are going to be catered to. The ones at the bottom, don't matter. Don't even say, they don't even exist, man. The next learning opportunity would be lost. It was all about moving forward. This was why it was necessary to gradually decrease the number of children. 10 minutes remaining. Prior to the many children dropouts, one of the many tests was a special high difficulty written curriculum. During the course of repeated daily study, I noticed something. The difficulty level of this special written test was raised according to the top score. In other words, a perfect score slid up the scale. Thus, a child with a previous low scale would have a more difficult time on the following test. So yeah, basically like the bar, like whoever scores the highest sets the bar, and like that, according to that bar, children are cut out. No matter how tough the questions were, there was no room for minor miscalculations, careless omissions, or excuses. That was why children repeatedly checked their answers, even if they solved all the problems on time. And this, you can also see, is where the idea of Ayanokoji's need for certainty stems. It was something ingrained with them, again, by the environment. A lot of the questions you have about Ayanokoji's characters, why his monologues are certain ways, they can all be traced back to the White Room, and it is one of the most interesting studies of like how someone's past can affect them that I've seen in literature. Honestly, this is awesome. They desperately clutched at their test papers because even a single mistake would mean the end of the test. While others around me kept busy, I kept staring at the front of the room with a pen in my hand. I kept pretending that I was still taking the test. In reality, I had already finished answering all the questions and was spending the remaining time idly. I wasn't worried about the possibility of making a mistake because I knew, look at this, because I knew I didn't make such a mistake. The confidence, bro. They start young. The questions on the test papers and the answers I wrote down were imprinted in my mind word for word. 5 minutes to go. With the announcement, the sound of brushing around me became more and more intense. You hear the sound of the eraser's pressure getting stronger from the seat next to you, as if they were in an impatient state of mind. The difficulty of this test had increased by several levels from the previous exam. During math class, when the students were solving questions such as the equality conditions of additive and synergistic averages, something unusual happened. I had almost half of the 30 minutes left to answer the final problem and was staring at the front of the room for the rest of the time, waiting for the signal to finish. Suddenly, so basically what Ayanokoji was doing, he aced the test and he was just sitting there staring at the wall, not handing it in. I wasn't heard of. Suddenly a man, a representative of the White Room, entered the room with a grim look on his face. It wasn't unheard of for an adult to show up in the middle of an exam when a person who wasn't able to keep up with the exam hyperventilates and collapses, or has a seizure or convulsions. So far, I hadn't noticed any signs of those conditions. Again, children would basically crash out in the worst ways imaginable, given because they were put in a state of fight or flight, religiously. And guess what? Sometimes your fright just goes to the next level and you just crash out and you are done. And you are kicked out of the White Room. But as soon as I learned, this time the adult came for him, for Ayanokoji. But I soon learned that it was for me, of all people, who was the adult's target. He stopped a little to my left, looked down at the test papers, and then looked up at me. Kiyotaka. I looked up as he called my name. Remember well, a person who has power yet neglects to use it is a fool. Where have you guys heard of this before, pray tell? Have you heard of this before? Yo, I'm just messing around. But dude, this is the most important line in the entire series. We've had this so many times come across. We've had this so many times reiterated on. This is a cornerstone. I'll go into some of the moments where this was reiterated on. But let's just keep on going. This is so important. Of course they knew what I was doing. Leave the room. I followed the man out of the room. What the hell are you doing, Kiyotaka? What do you mean? What do you mean? You don't understand what I'm asking, do you? I was shown to a small private room where I was made to sit down. I see you've completed all the questions. Yes. Are you sure you're gonna get a perfect score? No, of course not. The questions on the test were deliberately constrained to 80 points. Ooh, so Ayanokoji's dad's question was a trick question. That's crazy, bro. Why did you hold back? You didn't Yo, this guy, bro. You didn't instruct me not to hold back. I knew I wasn't going to fall behind the wayside just because I didn't get a perfect score. You do realize that you're already leading this term, don't you? Yes. Then there's only one reason you held back. The man pointed at me and said, because you noticed that how this curriculum works. If you get a perfect score, the curriculum for the fourth generation will become more difficult. Naturally, the number of dropouts will increase. Is that what you want to prevent? That was the correct assumption. Again, remember, Ayanokoji didn't say that was the correct idea. It's very tricky. Pay attention to the language. He said that was the correct assumption. He neither confirmed nor denied if that was it. Surely you haven't developed a sense of camaraderie with the kids. I see. So that's, again, Ayanokoji is not answering straight. I see. So that was the conclusion the adults have drawn. Again, that doesn't mean he agrees. He says, oh, that was the conclusion the adults have drawn. Is that what it looks like? Yes, that's what I see. And how did Ayanokoji sensei feel about it? I was interested in his answer. Holding yourself back to assist your fellow students isn't helping him at all. Is that really true? I asked myself. You're wrong. I denied it. So Ayanokoji's dad is like, helping the other students doesn't help you, and Ayanokoji's like, nope, you're wrong. I denied it. Then try to convince me. When ordered to do so, I put my own thoughts into words. This is the first argument. This is the first point of conflict Ayanokoji and his father have, by the way. In the first place, I never recognized the children around me as my friends. Then why didn't you try to get a perfect score? The instructors already knew that I would get a perfect score this time. There's no need to write the answers down on paper every single time. It's more time efficient to leave it blank. To get Ayanokoji's means to his ends, he is using the logic of the White Room and throwing it right at his father's face. He can't deny it. The White Room tests for efficiency above everything else. Efficiency is what lets Ayanokoji dominate. So he's like, yo, I know the answers. It's efficient for me to not write them down. You want a demonstration? I got perfect. This is really interesting. Using unnecessary energy was nothing but a waste. It's hubris. Hubris means ego. Knowledge fades with time. That's why you always do your best to remember. Even if you have the ability to get a perfect score, making mistakes and misremembering can happen. You need to show me your best at all times. I won't make a mistake. That's a bold statement. And that's not the only reason I hold back. What? I know that if I hadn't held back, the percentage of kids would drop out. I know if I hadn't held back, the percentage of kids who would drop out would be much higher than it is now. So if I cut corners, we're replacing a world where kids who would normally have dropped out are still here. Yes, that's called camaraderie. No, it's not. I thought of it as a loss of experience, a loss of contact with the children who are going to drop out. Can you think of which child, by the way? Can you think of an interaction that got Ayanokoji very curious, and for that reason, he didn't want people to drop out? Can you think of one? I'm messing around again, but of course it's Yuki, bro. Come on. This has to be a reference to her. So you think it's too early for them to drop? Okay, it's easy to dismiss them at this stage, but I'm still at the learning stage. I want to know what I can see and feel from the weak. Yep, this is the line. It is cruel, but it is the logic in which the White Room operates. So you think it's too early for them to drop out? I nodded. Soon, most of the kids around me wouldn't be able to keep up. So you think your plan is above ours. It's up to us to decide who is dropping out. Of course, it's your choice. That's how the White Room is. Again, this is so sneaky because he doesn't say whether he's right or wrong. He just says, of course, it's your choice. That's how the White Room is. He doesn't confirm that this guy... Yo, baby, Ayanokoji is crazy. It's futile to crush this man with logic. So Ayanokoji knows he's right. All that matters was that there was never a rule. Again, he's learning how to game the system within which he was placed. All that matters was whether or not there was a rule against holding back. But it wouldn't be easy to add a rule against cutting corners. Yo, this guy's crazy, bro. Even if I got a score of 0, the instructor, who's a third party, would be the one to judge me for holding back. They won't fail the exam because of that. However, it doesn't mean that the instructor can treat a person who got a score of 0 as if they scored 100 either. Is it okay with you if he thinks this way? Let's see what happens. What do you think, Suzukake, who's one of the lead scientists? I agree with Ishida-san. If he does something we haven't thought of, I'll be very happy. The man was silent for a while and then dropped his gaze on me. Do what you want, but don't forget what I said. Not utilizing one's power is a fool's errand. Whether it was true or not, I decided to remember it as a moment of interest. This, by the way, when Ayanokoji goes to help Horikita, like with Sudo's expulsion, and basically sets her on the right track, this is, by the way, the line he remembers. Not utilizing one's power is a fool's errand. And then maybe he says at the end that maybe I am a fool. Take that for what it is. Think about it. Come to your own conclusions and leave in the comment below like what that could mean, because I have my own take on it, but I don't want to instill it within you guys. I want to see what you guys come up with over here, because I think it's going to be interesting. Whether it's true or not, I decided he did. He remembered it for years and years and years and years and years. It lived rent-free in his head. Whether it was true or not, I decided to remember it as a moment of interest. At the same time, however, another emotion peeked out. I was beginning to feel that I did not... Yo. Man is discovering emotions. Alert the press. At the same time, however, another emotion peeked out. I was beginning to feel that I didn't like this man. I began to understand how Yuki felt when she said she did not like carrots a little more. So the first time Ayanokoji realized what the emotion hatred was the idea of disliking carrots, which extended to his father. You can't make this up, by the way. Whatever you thought this was, it's even crazier than what you thought this was. Oh my god. But that's basically the end of all of this, like the Ayanokoji discovering his first emotion. The rest of it's about a test. I'll probably maybe do some more readings about like the things that happened in the White Room. But for me, this was the most interesting chain of events. And it was the first time Ayanokoji discovered an emotion. And I think all of this, these lines, these scenes are packed so full of emotions. And if you take them and you start thinking about what happens in the story, and especially about Ayanokoji and his dad's interaction in Volume 7, which is like the tail end of Season 2, the first time Ayanokoji's dad arises or comes to the scene, it creates a very, very interesting set of thought experiments. Again, leave some comments below. This is one of the videos I want your input more than anything else, because I read this and I have my ideas, but I want to see what you guys think about this once you've like seen it as it is.